Hi everyone, this is Recky Rose, Star Legend, Star God, Creator. This is a real, very hard video to do because we're going to talk about a topic that's very but real. This is why I have to talk about it in detail, because it's about humanity. I'm part of that humanity, and we all may or may not have experienced this. But like I said, it takes courage to make a video, to sacrifice yourself for God's will. And this is another one of those videos that it's not about me, it's about trying to change the world from conflict into not conflict. And in order to do that, you have to show the truth to yourself and to people that you love and to the purpose of God's will. For years, there's many people in the world that suffer from either abuse or not abuse. In life, this is something that we want to cover over. We never want to see the truth of what abuse is and how it happens to people. So, like I said, I want to use my life as an example because I want people to understand it from both sides. So, this is very personal to me, very real, and I have to do this for God's will. It's what happens to me doesn't matter no more. This is about God's will. So when I was younger, very young, due to the conflicts that I was feeling at the time, this was when I was in like so hard to say this, you know. When I was in that primary school and stuff like that, I used to get a lot of abuse from teachers, from students, that they were violently abusive and verbally abusive and physically abusive. This affected me at a young age. I was only around, you know, maybe 5, 4, 6, 7, where all this was going on in my school environment. And as a young person that doesn't even understand what abuse was, I had to experience that. And I thought that behaviour of what people were treating me was true. I thought this is normal to violently be attacked, verbally be attacked, physically be attacked. And I realized after it happened, when I was very young at that time, that something was wrong here, because every time I went home from going to school, I was very upset, I was very down, I was very hurt, and I didn't understand why. And it's so hard for anyone that's very little to go through any form of abuse, and it's a real life situation. This is true things, you know. It happens every day. There's men out there being abusive, or there's females out there being abusive, or there's children out there being abusive. And I think what happens is we don't understand what it is. I think that's what the problem was. Maybe the people that was doing it to me in school didn't understand. They didn't understand maybe how that was affecting that individual, you know, their actions, because they wasn't aware or they wasn't caring. They could just abuse someone so badly that they wasn't aware of it. And I think this is the problem of abuse as a whole. It's people are not aware of the actions they're doing, and this is the problem. So obviously when I was younger, this happened to me, and to be honest with you, it had the worstest effect on me, because I thought this was real. I thought this was how life was meant to be, how you're meant to be violent to someone and be happy about it, and you're meant to hurt someone and be happy about it, or you know, it's like it was normal. And that's what turned me into a wreck. And I was very sad all the time, very, very upset and very, very sad. And you know, it's so hard that, you know, there's people out there that's going through this every single day, and I know how it feels. Personally, I know how it feels to go through that level of abuse without no one understanding it, or no one acknowledging it, or no one. You have to keep silent because you think that's the right thing to do, when it's not. It's not the right thing to do, because in your life you become very bitter, you become very hurt, you become very angry and sad, and you don't understand, why did this person or people do this to me? And you know, I was only 4 or 5 at the time, and it did happen to me. You know, in school I was abused. I know it might sound deep to say, but it's the truth. And then the story gets worse from there. For me, as I was younger and this was happening, you know, it took probably 25 years to say this, but within my family, in lots of different families around the world, you know, there's people within the family that do things they don't understand at times, and they don't get their actions. And for me, when I was very young at the time, even though I just suffered the abuse in school, I was abused also within my family. So within a member within my family did abuse me. Like I said, I wasn't aware of it at the time. I didn't understand why. I was too young to get it. And you know, this is what people live in every day, you know. And you know, I was so young at the time that this happened to me. It really destroyed my life, and part of those things led me to be abusive, because I was so young at the time, and I didn't just go through abuse in school. I actually was abused by one of my family members also, and this completely changed my life forever. And you know, when anyone out there is suffering with abuse, of any kind of abuse, it's very hard for the person, if they're very young, to understand what happened. Even the person that's done the action, to understand what they did. And the thing is, this happens every single day. young people make the biggest mistakes because they do an action, they don't understand what they're doing. And when young or adult people do these decisions and are not aware that this decision may affect someone's life for the rest of their life, forever, not just for a couple of minutes, forever, because they wasn't aware and they didn't understand what the hell they were doing. They were just doing something because of this dark, disgusting, evil pleasure. That affects not just that person's life, not just the person that did it, but the whole connection of where these two people are connected to. So this is why it's very hard for anyone out there that's either gone through some form of abuse in life or that's done abuse in life, because two people are hurt in the situation. And what happened to me was, because I was abused, I was abused in school as well as within my family, I became an abuser. And the chain carried on. And because of what happened with me, I became abusive. And you know, in life you make the worst decisions when you don't understand what's going on. I was so young at the time, probably around, maybe younger than 10, maybe, I don't know, I was young. And then I did the most regretful, sinful act when I was in that age, because I didn't understand what was happening to me. I didn't understand what I was doing. So then I abused someone, and within my family. So this is the devastating truth of abuse. It does happen. It is a real thing. And for me in my life now, because of what's happened to me in my past, it's affecting me every single day from that moment it happened. And because I know it from both sides, because I've been the abused and the abuser, it is the ultimate hell for anyone to live. When you're so young and you make a choice that you don't understand, and this choice that someone else done to you, or you chose to do, will affect not just your life but the person's life as well. It's very destructive and wrong, and there's no easy way of saying it. So the truth is, whether it's hard to hear or not, if there's anyone out there that has either been an abuser or been abused, you need to come out. You need to be honest about it. You need to say it directly, and you need to keep it true, because it is a real situation and it does happen. And I just feel sorry for everyone that I've hurt in my past due to my past actions. I was only little at the time. Of course, if I was aware of my actions, I wouldn't have done it. Of course, if the abusers that abused me wasn't aware of their actions, they wouldn't have done it. But the truth is, when you do things like this, it's devastating. And there's so many families out that their children are going through these things now. You know, there's so many men and women that suffered this abuse every day, whether it's from family or from someone else. It's a serious issue. It's a real issue, and you know, it takes a lot of courage to kind of go, you know what, I was abused, or I was an abuser, because so many people want to hide it and cover up their wrongs and cover up what they did. And I think the truth is, it's, you can't run from the truth, do you understand? And this is something I had to accept. I can't ever change that I did a sinful thing. I can't ever change that someone abused me. I can't understand that this happened. I don't know why it happened in my life. I don't know why some people would abuse me for no reason. I don't understand why I became that person. I don't understand why. I think that's the biggest problem, and the hardest thing to understand is that when you make choices that you don't understand, and you don't understand you're responsible for everybody, completely devastating. And that's why I feel sorry in the world, because there's so much people like myself that's gone through both sides, and it's so hard to break free from that in your mind. It's so hard to kind of go, you know what, I was abused, and then I became an abuser. It's so hard to actually say that in words, because for me, I was so young. I really didn't understand what was going on, and as a young person, you have to keep all these things secret and hidden. And I think that's where the problem lies, is where the truth doesn't come out. It affects that person's life forever, because of what I did in my past, because of everything that I went through. I had the worstest past, and I'm not proud of everything that not just I went through, the whole experience of what I had to go through as a human being. Because the thing is, in life, when so much bad happens to you, most of the time it's for a reason. If you haven't learnt from it, or if you haven't changed, or if you don't understand what's going on. And there's a lot of people out there in the world that's done the most evilest things, and they don't want to put their hands up and say it. They want to keep hiding and pretending they're perfect when they're not, when they're killing children every day, when there's people in the government abusing men, abusing women, and they consciously know what they're doing. They consciously know they're raping this child, or they're hitting this man in the face, or they're abusing this woman and her family and her children. Like, this is a real life issue, and there's so much people that want to hide, who they really are, and hide the fact that they've done the most sinfulest things. But I think if someone that really is honest and caring and understands that, look, that if I was consciously aware of it, I wouldn't have done it. Those people I respect more, because one thing I learned is you can't change what happened. That's why when you make choices in life, you have to make a serious decision, and it can't be a joke. If you say you're gonna kill this person today, and you kill him, that's gonna affect not just you, but the person for the rest of their life. If someone abuses another person, that's not just going to affect him or her, but the whole connection of the thing. So I think for anyone that's out there that's either done both, if you ever want to find what freedom is, you have to understand what you've done, and you have to understand what you went through, because without that, you can never find God, and you can never find grace. And if you don't show the truth will come. You can't hide from the truth. You can't hide who you was. Anyone in the government or anyone that's done sinful things, if you don't show God your mercy and your honesty and you really are genuinely sorry, you're going to hell, because God shows the truth no matter what. And if you don't admit to your actions, you're going to hell. There's no way around that. So if you want to feel God's mercy and God's love on both sides, you have to open up. You have to open up, and it's very hard for people to open up. I feel sorry for people that have been abused like myself. We go through a very difficult life of accepting that someone physically or mentally or emotionally or physically abused me, and you have to live with that. every day, all the time, in your spirit. Maybe you can get past certain things, yeah, but it's always a memory. And that's why, if you really, people that do that, if they don't care about the actions they did, they're just wrong. You know, you have to own up to your mistakes and say sorry, for goodness sake, because I think there's so much men, women and children that have gone through this torture, and I think out of everything in life, this is one of the most traumatizing things. When people go through abuse of any kind, it's traumatizing. It's something that's very destructive and disturbing. And the truth is, if we want to change the world for the better, we have to start being honest with ourselves. And without being honest to yourself, the world will never change, because in order to be honest with yourself, you have to accept the mistakes and accept the things that you don't want to accept. You have to accept both, because this is the truth. You know, the saddest thing for me was trying to deal with the fact that it can never change. Like, of any kind of abuse or any kind of violence, when someone makes a decision to do this and they're not consciously aware and it happens, that's it. You know, if you don't understand what you're doing and then you do something, you pay the price, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. You need the thing that I'm trying to get out there. People need to understand that in the present is the most important thing. You have a choice and you have a change, and without making that choice, you can never change. And this goes back to my final bit of no abuse. We've spoke about abuse and what it is and how it affects people. No abuse basically means no abuse at all whatsoever for men, women and children all around the world, every country, every area, because to have no abuse in the world today, we have to accept the abuse. We have to accept that there's people killing people every day. We have to accept that there's people raping people every day. We have to accept that there's people being unjustified in the world today. This is the truth. If we want no abuse in the world, we have to accept this. This is the truth. The abuse is alive. The abuse is happening in the world today. It's a real thing. It's a real topic. It's not a joke. It happens. It happens to all of us in some way, in different ways. But the truth is, if we want to live in a life that has no abuse, we have to accept the abuse. If we hurt someone, we have to accept that. If we've been violent to someone, we have to accept that. Because how can us as a humanity move from abuse to no abuse? There has to be a choice, and it has to be a change. And the only thing I can honestly think of is when you understand what it does and what it is and what it has done to people in all aspects. And I don't blame anyone for doing what they did to me in the past. I just blame myself because I wasn't aware of how it was affecting me. I was only 10 at the time, very young, so I wasn't aware. And I have to be honest and truthful about it, because it is a real life thing. And I'm a man of truth now. There's no more hiding anything. There's no more pretending the world isn't full of negativity and things that people want to cover up and hide. I'm a man of truth, and even the hardest things have to be shown. Like I said, I'm not perfect. I haven't done the best things in the world, but I'm honest enough and truthful enough to put my hands in the air to go, you know what, I wasn't honest, I was a liar, I was a cheater, I was an abuser. This is who I was in the past, because I was so young and I didn't understand things. And the truth is the truth, and whoever's listening to this message, if they want to hide or cover it up, that's your problem. For me, there's no more hiding what happened to me in my past. There's no more hiding the fact that we live in a world that people are being killed every day. There's violence being happened every day. I don't mind what happens to me because it's part of being truthful. And this is the truth, and there's no more lies. And anyone that's seeking truth, you have to be honest with yourself. There's no point of lying, because if you've been abused or if you've been an abuser, either one, you have to be honest. Because if you don't, then you're just going to live in lies. There's no point. It's best to be honest about it, and best to show the world the truth. And if you can't show the world the truth, show yourself the truth, because if you don't, then the rest of your life is going to be hard. And if you suffered from abuse, like myself, you have to express it, and you have to get it out. As hard as it may sound, as hard as it may hear, you have to show the people that matter most what happened. And it's the most difficult thing to do, but you have to do it, because if you don't, that feeling of what happened to you in the past will live on forever, and you can never move forward as a human being. And I think that's the one thing as young children that's happening to many people in the world. We live with these memories of the past. We live with the fact that these things happen to us. So many kids these days do the worstest mistakes because they just don't understand the consequences. And I think if we don't see the truth in things, then how can we change as people? How are people meant to change? And